Let me start with an honest thought. Most people don't like being preached to, even believers. It's not always because the message is wrong, but because of how it feels to receive it. The moment we sense correction, instruction, or even truth coming at us the wrong way, something rises up inside of us. We become guarded, defensive, close. And sometimes, without realizing it, pride quietly takes the wheel. Not loud pride, not arrogant pride, but subtle pride, the kind that says, I already know, or that's not for me, or I don't need to hear this. And that's where I want to pause for a moment. I want to stop for a moment because maybe the issue isn't that God isn't speaking. Maybe it's how we're willing or unwilling to hear. Maybe the reason some of us haven't heard the word we were meant to hear is because we were waiting for it to be spoken when God chose to show it instead. Think about that. What if the word wasn't meant to come through a microphone, a sermon, or even a conversation? What if it was meant to come through someone else, someone's life? There's something powerful about words. God uses words, scriptures is filled with them, but there are moments, many moments, where words stop being effective. Words can be debated, words can be resisted, words can be dismissed. But a life lived in humility, in love, in patience, that's harder to argue with. You don't have to agree with it, you don't have to like it, but you can easily deny it. And that's where preaching without saying a word begins. The Bible reminds us to be quick to listen and slow to speak. That's not just advice for conversation, it's a posture of the heart. Sometimes God asks us to speak, other times He asks us to live quietly but faithfully. And here's the part we don't always like. When God chooses to show instead of tell, pride has nothing to argue with. There's no sermon to criticize, no tone to judge, no wording to twist, just truth on display. Have you ever learned something not because someone corrected you, but because you watched them? Watch how they responded when they were wrong. Watch how they stay quiet under pressure. Watch how they show grace when it wasn't deserved. That kind of preaching reaches places words never can. Jesus himself said to let our light shine so that others may see our good works. Notice, see, not hear. And Peter speaks directly to this idea when he described people being reached, not by argument or speech, but by conduct without a word. That's not weakness, that's wisdom. Here's the uncomfortable truth we all need to sit with. Sometimes the reason we haven't received what God is trying to give us is because it didn't come wrapped the way we expected. It came through someone younger than us, someone quieter, more quiet than us, someone we didn't think God would use. And pride whispers, not like that. But God often bypasses our pride by choosing a method that doesn't invite debate, only reflection. So this teaching isn't about never speaking. It's about recognizing when silence speaks louder. It's about understanding that that the most powerful sermon you may ever preach could be your consistency, your humility, your obedience when no one is watching, your love when it costs you something. Because a life aligned with Christ doesn't need to announce itself. It testify on its own. Let me leave you with this thought. What if the very thing God wants to use to reach someone is not your words, but your walk? And what if the very word God wants you to receive is already being shown to you? If only pride would step aside long enough to let you see it. Sometimes the loudest preaching is done without saying a word.